Welcome back to Cali Car Guy's YouTube channel. I do apologize, and sincerely, it's a sincere apology to my 105 subscribers. I don't know how much I actually have. I have not been on YouTube for quite a while now, and I've hit a couple life events that made me completely stop doing what I was doing back in 2020. It is now 2024, and I'm starting off the video with an apology to my subscribers. And for those subscribers that are aware that I have a TikTok, an Instagram, and a Facebook page, I do post there intermittently or intermediate. You guys can also subscribe to my TikTok, my Instagram, and my Facebook. I'll shoot the links in the bio down below, and that way you guys can check it out. It's been a rough 4 years without posting. I've been wanting to get back into it, and I'm sorry that I ghosted all of you. Again, I've hit some situations along the line in my life, so I kind of had to like pause. I had less free time. I had less of everything. So, and I'm assuming, or I'm guessing, that there's a lot of folks out there right now going through hard times. Our economy is pretty rough, so here we are today, just doing our best to get our first video in a while. And yeah, if you guys want to ask me any questions about what has happened in my life, you guys are welcome to do so. Comment down below. You guys are also welcome to, comment on my TikTok, whatever you guys want to do. And yeah, in today's video, we are actually going to be talking about under the hood fluids, or your engine compartment fluids, whatever you guys want to call it, whatever they call it. We're going to be comparing two separate vehicles, one that is 2014 and another that's 2006. I have a couple other vehicles in my possession that are owned by me, and we will do comparisons with them as well to these two. We are going to actually start with the most modern vehicle, since not everybody, but most people nowadays drive a little bit more of a modern vehicle, like 2014 to like 2024. And I'm gonna go ahead and pop the hood open for you guys. Now we're going to be comparing to the older vehicle that's right over there. I'm gonna be showing you and teaching you where and how and when you should check your under hood fluids. Okay, on this modern engine compartment, as you guys can see, there's not a lot going on. Everything's basically like simple. Like, for instance, an iPhone, it's all right there. Excuse me. We're gonna start off with the engine. Okay, some of your guys' modern vehicle, depending if you have front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or all wheel drive, depending, your engine will be like this. I would say horizontal and not parallel. I could be wrong. For a simpler way, this engine is sideways, and for other vehicles, it would be front to back, or not sideways. LOL. We're gonna be starting off with the engine's oil. We're gonna be checking the engine's oil, and I'm gonna show you what you want to look for when you're gonna check your engine's oil, the level of it, and to see whether or not you need to top it off, and to find the dipstick as well. So as you can see here, I'm looking at it. You don't know where you would check for your engine oil. Well, we're gonna be looking at a yellow or orange bright color that looks like a little handle. And I'm looking at mine right now, and this is what I'm looking at. It'll be like a little handle or hook, whichever, and you're gonna want to go ahead, locate it, find it, pull it out straight, and we're gonna go ahead and, if we're gonna be checking our oil, we're gonna go ahead and wipe it clean. You can either use your shirt, a rag, a paper towel, whichever, doesn't matter. I don't have any of those. I'm gonna use my shirt. This is the process of how you would check your engine oil. And I'm gonna go ahead and dip it back in the same compartment where I took it out of. And then you don't have to wait. You don't have to let it sit there for a while or anything like that. Once you dip it in, you can pull it back out, and it'll give you a fine, perfect reading. As you can see, mine reads below the low level, and this is my reading. If yours happens to be here below the low level, you will want to top it off with oil. I'm not gonna go deep into the topic of what type of engine oil or any of like that, but what type of weight either. But we're gonna just focus on checking your level. Again, if it's at the low level or below the low level, you're gonna want to top it off with either a quart, which will bring it towards the middle, or 2 quarts, which will bring it to the full line. Or if you're not sure how much you need, the only reason why I know is because I'm used to this car. I check the oil every time I fill up gas, and I usually put 2 quarts, and it brings me back to the full. If you're not sure, you can add, and it is recommended if you are below the low level to add 1 quart of oil. If you don't reach the full level and you only reach the middle, which is half full, go ahead and buy another quart and fill it with half of that quart, and then dip your dipstick and check it again to see where you're at. You're gonna do that after you've added the first quart of oil. Dip your dipstick back in, take it out, wipe it, dip it back in, and then it'll give you the exact reading. Now, the way you read these dipsticks, it honestly all depends on the type of dipstick you have. Some dipsticks have a dot towards the bottom, like how you guys see this graded area right here. Some dipsticks don't have this. Some dipsticks have a dot towards the bottom and a dot towards the top, and those are your 2 indicators of low and high, or low and full. Okay, if your dipstick ends up being bone dry like it is here, no oil whatsoever, you are damaging your motor. You are harming the engine. You either want to be at the low level, which would be, let me give you a quick example. You're either going to want to be here at the low level with some oil. If there is no oil, just let me give you a quick swipe. You want to have oil on the low level. If you don't have any oil and it's bone dry like this, you are damaging your motor. I do recommend to buy at least 2 quarts of oil and just throw it in there. That way you don't do any more harm towards your engine. Now that we covered checking your oil level and how to check if you're low or full, we're gonna move on to the other fluid, which would be the coolant. Now, the coolant is very important. You always want to have this at the full level or half level. Reason why is because the coolant is responsible for keeping the engine at a normal running temperature. Basically, it won't overheat, to the point where the aluminum or block or the entire engine will seize together and warp. Okay, so the coolant is important because you guys need to. The coolant is important because it keeps the engine from overheating. The way you would check the coolant reservoir and locate it is that you would have to look for either a sign that has precaution hot, or it'll either be clear like this one and have some either red, green, or orange fluid inside, or blue in that case. Mine is pink. And I'm currently at in between the minimum and the full level, which is good. I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, I'm in between the minimum and the full level. The reason, and again, you always want to keep your eye on this reservoir as well. At the same time that you are checking your engine's oil level, you want to also check your coolant level. Mostly because you don't want to let your engine overheat. And I would recommend, out of my own opinion, that you guys would check it every time you guys fuel up, either half tank, full tank, whatever you guys do. It's best recommended to check your engine oil and your coolant level when you're refueling, or you're getting your maintenance done, which is like the oil change, to check the coolant reservoir, see if it's full or low, and just keep that in mind. It is important because most modern vehicles burn at least 1 quart, and it could be within a week or within 2 weeks, especially cars that have turbos as well. I'm not gonna jump into that whole topic, but this car here, it's a turbo engine and it burns a lot of oil, especially when I floor it. But yeah, you want to keep those two fluids in mind, oil and coolant. Now the other fluid that you guys want to check for would be the brake fluid. Usually that never runs low unless you are your brakes are, your brake pads are running low, meaning that your pads are almost due for their next replacement, and you wouldn't have to necessarily fill it back up, because that would be an indicator, oh shit, or excuse my language, oh no, my brake fluid is low, let me check if my brake pads are almost done with their life. So that would be an indicator for you to check your brake pads. And then the other fluid that this modern vehicle does not have would be power steering. I actually have not been able to locate it unless it is hidden along here, but I've already opened this up a while ago and there is no power steering fluid location on this vehicle. There is no power steering fluid, which is crazy. So that means that this car has an electric power steering system, which is great news. That means it's not gonna need any fluid for you to turn your wheels. It's electronic. Good news. Bad news, if it does, break, or there's damage to the power steering, electrical system, it's gonna be expensive. But those are one of the pluses of having a modern vehicle. Less fluids that you have to check. The other fluid that you guys all might want to check for, not necessarily, would be your windshield washer fluid. Now for these all vehicles are either gonna have a blue cap that's gonna have a picture of a windshield and water spraying everywhere. This you can fill up on your own with either windshield washer fluid that you get at your local auto parts store, water, or just Windex. You could definitely do that. Now this is how you check your modern engine compartment on all modern vehicles. I would say 2014 and up, maybe 2012 and up. Again, I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but this is how you would check it. Okay, now we are gonna go ahead, close the hood on this vehicle, and go to our older vehicle. Now this right here is a 2006 Legacy, Subaru Legacy. And as you can see, there's a lot going on here already. As soon as you open up your hood, and for those of you that own a much older vehicle, you're gonna be like, whoa, where do I look to check my fluids? Where do I go to check my oil level, my coolant, my coolant reservoir level, my power steering level? Does it even have power steering level? Where is the brake fluid reservoir? So I'm here to guide you. On older vehicles, it's gonna look somewhat like this. Don't panic. It's going to be somewhat similar to the modern vehicle. You're going to want to look for, again, a yellow or bright orange hook or handle for your oil dipstick. Now, as you can see, this is the engine for the Subaru Legacy. It's not sideways, it's actually front to back. Crazy. And I'm looking for the oil dipstick. Oh, looking for the oil dipstick. Look, here it is. It actually has a picture of an oil container, and it's yellow. Now, the same process we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and wipe it with either a rag, paper towel, your shirt, whichever. Wipe it off. I'm gonna go ahead and dip it back in. And we're going to check the oil level. And as you can see, what I was talking about earlier, the two dots, this one has the two dots, and it also has letters as indicators, L for low and F for full, and a third little indent on the oil dipstick right here. I don't know if you guys can see that right there, stating that that's where it needs to be, on the full. Again, if you guys cannot tell if it's full because of how clear the oil it is, or how clear the oil is, you can go ahead and swipe your finger, and if you have some fluid on your finger, that means that it is full. And again, if you do not see any oil at all and you wipe it and you don't get any residue on your finger from the dipstick, that means you are bone dry. You want to go ahead and add at least 2 quarts of oil right away, because you are causing harm to your engine. We're gonna go ahead and put this bad boy back inside. Once we have done that, we are gonna try to locate the coolant reservoir. Now, again, we're gonna want to look for something that either says coolant, has a sign that says caution hot, or something that is of a colorful fluid. Now, and in this scenario, we actually have 2 indicators. But in the modern engine, we did not have 2 indicators. We only had 1 indicator, which was the coolant reservoir. In older vehicles, they do tend to have the radiator cap either a few inches away from the coolant reservoir, or farther away. In this case scenario, you do not want to open up your coolant, your radiator cap, because the coolant reservoir is the fluid that goes into the radiator and gets cooled down as you're driving. And I'm not gonna get into the whole detail, but you never want to open up your radiator cap, only your coolant reservoir. If your coolant reservoir is the same as your radiator cap, do not open it when it's hot. You want to let the engine cool down for at least 2 hours till you get to open up your radiator cap. But as you can see, there are two separate things. So this is the radiator cap, and as you can see, it also says warning, never open when hot. That's a huge red flag for you to not open. Now if you see something that says coolant, you want to go ahead and open it and check where your level is at. As you can see, I located it. Mine is next to the radiator towards the front of the car. Great. And if I can't see through this little hole how full it is, well, I'm gonna end up looking over on the side, and oh, look, would you look at that. If the light could hit there for a little bit, there is, I don't know if you guys can see, towards the bottom there's a line that says the low level, and towards the top there's a line that says a full level. Now you want to always check for those indicators, and whatever color fluid is inside the reservoir, if it's at the low level, you're gonna want to fill it up to the full level. And again, having your coolant reservoir filled to full is a less of a headache, less of a stress for you as your, as the driver or the owner of the vehicle, the investor of the vehicle, whichever. It's less stressful because you don't have to worry about your engine overheating. And now that you know where to check for your oil level, you do not have to worry about the engine getting damaged. Now those are the two main important liquids that you always want to have and keep an eye on. Okay, now that we've covered that, we're gonna go ahead and try to look for the power steering reservoir. As you can see, there's a lot going on here. And then the more modern vehicle, there was no power steering reservoir, mostly because it was modern and it had an electric power steering system. Now I'm gonna look over here and I'm gonna look over here. You're gonna want to look for a cap, and you're gonna want to read it. Look for a cap that says power steering. I actually ended up finding it, but mine doesn't say power steering on it. But if I clear it up, it says power steering. There we go. So now we've located our power steering reservoir. We're gonna go ahead, you can open it up if you'd like to. This you can open up when it's hot or cold, it does not matter. As you can see, that's where you would fill it. But mostly with this vehicle, these on power steering reservoirs, my apologies, you will have a dark fluid and the plastic will somewhat be clear, and you will have indicators on the plastic, and it'll either say cold, hot, cold max. It will either say that, but where you want to fill it, if it's below the cold minimum, and if it's way below, I would say down here where this little mold is right here, you would want to fill it to the cold minimum if your vehicle is cold and has not been started in the past several hours. Okay, but if your vehicle is running, has been running, and is hot minimum, you might want to fill it to the hot max, the hot max, which would be the last indicator, which would be right at the very top. Okay, that's where you would want to fill it to. If it's like I said, if it was cold, you're gonna want to fill it to the cold max, which would be above the hot minimum. That's where you always want to fill it up. Mine's a little bit low right now, but it's all right. This is just a video of how to check your underhood fluids, your oil levels, or your fluid levels, however you guys want to call it. We've covered the power steering, which our modern vehicle did not have, but this 2006 Legacy did. Now we're also going to look for the brake fluid reservoir. Brake fluid reservoir is usually going to be towards the back of the firewall. Firewall because, well, when the engine's hot, they call it the firewall because all that heat makes the back of the wall hot. There's insulation right there, but I'm not gonna get all into that. Now we're gonna look for the brake reservoir. The brake reservoir is always gonna have either words that you can either read, and if it does not say brake reservoir, then it is not. But as you can see here, I'm currently looking at it and it says DOT3 brake fluid reservoir. Now this usually has indications on the sides, and as you can see, this one right here has max, and then the line right there, and then minimum towards the bottom below this line. So if you are full to the max, there is no need for you to even top it off. Again, what I explained earlier from the 2014 vehicle is that usually when your brake fluid level is low, that could be an indicator of your brake pad's life coming to an end, meaning you might need new brakes and it's time for you to get it either replaced and checked out. Now, if you guys have any questions, oh, I almost forgot. And then another thing, same exact reservoir that we were talking about, that it's not necessary for you to fill up, but you might want to, just to keep a clear mind in the future, would be your windshield washer fluid. As you can see, you're always going to look for a windshield picture with water spraying everywhere, and it'll be either a yellow cap or a blue cap. In this case, in the 2006 one, it's a yellow cap. But hopefully this covers all your guys's questions, or this actually helps you keep your car's engine healthy, because this is these are one of the most important steps into keeping your engine and car's life healthy and to live longer, by maintaining and making sure that every fluid is full and every fluid is there, and it gives you a sense of security and insurance. If you guys have any questions, go ahead. What would you like me to cover next, and I will do it. Yeah, I hope this video helps. I have nothing else to say. God, this is embarrassing. But yes, drop a like, leave a comment down below. If you guys want me to cover older vehicles on checking the underhood fluids, let me know. I do have a couple of old videos on my YouTube channel showing you how to check your tire pressure and showing you how to check your underhood fluids in a 1992 Nissan 240SX. If you want, you could also check that out. I'll link it in the bio down below. But this is how you check from early 2000s to modern 2014 through 2024 vehicles, underhood fluids. That was a mouthful, but again, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, let me know what you guys think, and have a good night.